Welcome to the Yes Show. I'm your host, Christine Trippi. Each week, we'll explore the life-changing power of saying yes, along with hotel leadership made easy. Get ready for inspiration, fun, and sweet hospitality. Let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Yes Show. Don Barnett is our guest today, and he is the Director of Sales and Marketing at the London House Chicago, and he has been for over 7 years. He is also a commissioned artist and entrepreneur offering creative marketing solutions inside hospitality. And you know what? He still finds time to spend time with his family. I'm glad to see you, and I have a yes question right off the bat for you. You said yes to a marketing campaign that led you to be recognized as the bingo guy 8 years after the email campaign came out. How did this experience reinforce the importance of storytelling and building a personal branding for your career?
It just went to show that by being consistent and being authentic with people on a daily basis and not being salesy, made such an impression on people that even after getting out of the business for, like you said, 8 years, I had stepped into a travel agency's office. And the second I walked in, the person behind the desk said, "Hey, I recognize you. You're the bingo guy." And I was like, wow, I can't believe people remember that. But it had become very popular.
Tell us about the actual campaign.
Yeah, so the genesis of it was I was working at a resort at the time, and I always like to do what everybody else isn't. I like to have fun, and I wanted to stand out in any way I can. So it started with some client contests. I had a best joke contest. I had a best recipe contest where people could send in their recipes and you could have your recipe on our menu. Our chef would make it and it would be a special. And then I landed on bingo and I was like, oh, I think I can work with this. So what I did is I got everybody individual bingo sheets. I ordered like 5,000 bingo sheets and they were all unique to each person. And I created a fun flyer, and it would have been lame to just give out like overnight stays at the hotel. So we gave away like Birchbox and, movie tickets and candy and, just stuff I thought people like, what would I want to win? I handed out the flyers and it started with maybe like 100 clients. And then, I started having people say, hey, can our office in Arizona also participate? I'm like, yes. So, and it just started growing and growing till it was like over 500 people that were on this campaign. And what would happen is we would start the bingo contest and I would send out a bingo number of the day every business day. But again, that would be boring. So I thought, I'm not going to be salesy. I'm not going to promote the hotel every single day. I'm going to just tell a little funny story about, something in my life. I've got kids. I would, tell stories about when I was dating my wife and tried to be valiant, or that I crank called my grandma one time, things like that. So the best compliment I got out of the whole thing is ironic, because I received an email once, like 3 weeks into one of my bingo contests. And the person said, "Don, we just want to let you know that we stopped playing bingo 2 weeks ago, but we want you to keep sending your stories." And I was like, "Oh, awesome. Okay, sure."
And that truly speaks to what we were talking about in the beginning about how storytelling really does create know, like, and trust. It creates a relationship. Storytelling is just so next level in building relationships.
Yeah. And to your point, one of my favorite things from the whole experience was I would get people that would email me back. I would tell a story, and then every day I'd get 1 or 2 stories back at me where somebody would say, "Hey, this reminds me of this." One time, I forget what my story was, but the person emailed me back and they said, "You're going to find this hilarious, but when my daughter was younger, she thought that King Kong was a true story." Like, that was her story, and it was hilarious. So I never forgot that because it was so funny.
Right. And then you have, like, I literally have goosebumps. I love building relationships and making these connections and making it special. And when you then listen to someone's story, they feel they feel heard and seen, and whenever you can create those me too moments, oh, me too, that's when you know you're building magic and relationships. And I just love that. And again, even if they didn't need your services at the time, they're going to remember you when they do.
It's not necessarily about I'm trying to sell to a specific person. I'm just trying to make connections with people and create relationships. And hey, how can I help you win? And I go into it with faith that, if I do that enough for enough people, it'll come around. I just have faith in that. And, maybe this person or that person doesn't have business for me, but they know somebody who does. And I can't tell you how many introductions have been made to me with people that had business. So a lot of referrals.
Yes, yes. Now, when you did this was quite a while ago. Was there LinkedIn at the time?
The last time I did the contest was kind of in LinkedIn's infancy, but I actually started the bingo contest way back in like 2002 or 4, something like that. It was a while ago, 20 plus years ago.
Cell phones.
Yeah.
So your campaign, though, it was strictly through email.
Yeah, it was all email.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that leads me right into the whole LinkedIn. And this is how we met, because we're both very active in LinkedIn. And I just love the content you put out. And I feel the exact same as you. I literally everything I do, if I were a self-made millionaire, I would do all of it for free. So I just want to put positive energy in the world and help people. So that's why I give every day on LinkedIn. And like you, I just want to do that. So I hope and know that it will come back to me. And then that's kind of why I started doing it. And then I started learning, well, it's actually a strategy.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a strategy.
Strategy of it.
The best hack I could give anybody is find your joy in it. I enjoy writing. I'm not embarrassed to share personal stories. I believe in that authenticity. And every time I tell a little stupid story or I share something entertaining, it's going to resonate with somebody. And again, I go into it for the joy of it and to help people out and to educate, entertain, edutain.
Yes.
And again, I'm not looking to promote anything in particular. Every once in a while, I might say, hey, we're doing our rooftop event. I posted last week. So for the most part, I just want to educate and entertain and hope people find value in it. And again, I have faith that those things will come back to me.
Yes, I 100%. And I love your hack is find the joy. If you love making video, make video. If you love being on Canva and making little Canva things, share that. If you like giving tips on leadership or if you like talking about the history of your industry. I know Dylan, who sadly passed away, but created this a huge following on LinkedIn, and he just loved hospitality, loved the history of it. And I don't know if he did it daily, but at least every week he shared really cool history, and that was so much fun. And he wasn't some influencer out there or a celebrity. He was a general manager who loves our industry and decided to share his passion for the history of our industry. And he got this big following. And you know what they talk about all the time in how, if you want to get to your next level in your career, is it more important to have great performance, great image, or great exposure? And the number one thing is exposure, because performance is just an invitation to the table. It takes exposure and being known in order to find those opportunities. So this is, if you are, whether you are an entrepreneur trying to sell something, or if you are a sales and marketing person trying to create awareness for your brand, or if you are a person looking to advance your career, LinkedIn You think I got royalties on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is the best place to be sharing some of your expertise.
Oh, 1,000%. And I've talked about this before too, which is, you look at TikTok and Instagram and things like that, and there's certainly an oversaturation of content. I mean, you could spend all day on it. Where LinkedIn, what makes it such a great opportunity is it's undersaturated with content creators. You still have a lot of people that post about, I just got promoted, and that's great. We're happy for you. But if you're willing to put yourself out there, there's so much opportunity. There's not many people in hospitality doing this day in and day out. So it's like the wide open west for me. And if nobody's there to pick up the mic and you're the only one, well, I guess that kind of makes you the guy.
Yes. And this is so funny. You talk about being vulnerable and putting stories out there. I recently posted on LinkedIn and all my platforms, but LinkedIn is my top platform. If I had to choose only one, it would be LinkedIn. I would say the majority of my business comes from LinkedIn. And I think that's an amazing platform. But I just put out I don't know if you remember seeing it, but it was a picture of me from 1994. So a lot of years ago. And I had just gave birth to my son. And there's a picture of me.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And I got glasses that are this big on. And I was like, God, do I actually put this on social media? But it was a very personal story about how I chose, because my son was born with a hole in his heart, to walk away from my career and be an at-home mom, because there was a potential he could go into heart failure at any moment. So I did that. And my point was that, and then when it was time, I jumped right back into hospitality, and my career grew maybe even faster than if I had never left. So it was just a really personal story, but that particular post that I second guessed a lot probably was one of my top posts.
Oh, that's awesome.
When you say yes to putting yourself out there, you can change the world. And I had so many people reach back out to me to say, thank you, this is something I needed to hear, and etc. So every time you say yes, you can change the world. Speaking of hospitality history, you work at the incredible London House downtown Chicago, my hometown. And tell us a little bit about the London House.
It's the best job I've ever had. One, I have great colleagues. I have a great boss. We have a great culture. It's the best culture I've ever worked at. And we just so happen to have an awesome product and a great location on top of it. So it's such a cool place. I started in hospitality, and then I was part owner of a limestone fabrication company. So complete career 180, and then got back into hospitality. So long story short, when I got the opportunity to work at London House, I'm in this historical building that's partially new, but mostly clad in limestone, which is, where I came from with the business. So I love the architecture of it. I love the limestone and things that would be probably impossible to recreate today, just because what it would cost in today's dollars. But, the building's been there since 1923 as the London Guarantee and Accident Building. And it was an insurance company that was insuring maritime companies, including some of the boats that were floating along the Chicago River right outside its door. And then it also hosted several other headquarters over the years. Cranes was located there. We were the location of Paul Harvey's studio, the legendary radio DJ. There was another radio, I think it was Dick Biondi, used to also broadcast from there. And Dick Biondi, out of our location, was the first person in the United States to play a record by the Beatles. So the first time anybody ever heard the Beatles was Dick Biondi threw it on his record player out of our hotel.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So there's so much history. We're also from the 1940s to the 1970s were the location of the London House Dinner and Jazz Club, and the who's who of jazz came through there.
Well, it's funny because my post this week, my Sweet Chip Tuesday, was all about creating great experiences for the history and the location that you're in. And as a matter of fact, I referenced the Palmer House not too far down from the London House, and it talked about the brownie.
Oh yeah.
And just when people are in unique spaces and when you can tell the stories of your unique spaces, that creates such a different experience. Like I said, when I first was delivered that brownie as a sweet surprise, I thought, oh, I better not eat that. And then when I learned the history of it, I'm like, oh, well, this is not just a brownie. This is history. I have to eat it. When people are in those unique spaces, just like you are telling the story of the London House, people want to be there because it's not just another hotel, it's part of history. So I love how you share that on Instagram. I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, that the London House is one of the most followed hotels on Instagram in Chicago. And I was going to ask you what strategies you use to achieve that milestone. But is there anything particular for Instagram that you really drive into to create that?
Yeah. So we are the most followed hotel in Chicago on
Okay, I
Instagram.
didn't
Yeah.
want
So
to speak. Okay.
yeah. So which is at LA Chicago. So if you're not following us, please do. But one is our our general manager, our leader, believes in social media. So that is a huge help right out of the gate because I think there's a lot of leaders in the business that maybe don't see the value in it or don't want to spend the money on it. And we went all chips in the middle on it. And even during the pandemic, when everybody else was cutting everything, staff, marketing, the only two things that we did not cut were our social media and our SEO. And we kept our social media going because that was our two-way conversation that we could continue to have with our audience. And a lot of other hotels weren't doing that. So that helped us jump by leaps and bounds. This seems a little off topic, but every year we create goals for the hotel. We usually come up with 4 or 5 goals that everybody in the hotel can get behind and help push. And 5-6 years ago, we made one of those goals to go from 6,000 followers to 10,000 followers on Instagram. And we would add it, we added it to our emails. We put it in our elevators. We made sure we were posting daily and whatever worked with the algorithms. If reels or stories is where it's at, we made sure, we were putting out great content. And we have a phenomenal social media manager, Amy Ulivari. So I drop her name because she's phenomenal. So putting out, the quality content and doing it consistently and making it a goal that everybody got behind and pushed it, got us to 10,000. And then we thought, okay, can we get to 20,000? And then we started looking at who are the top hotels in the city. And we were, we got to like number 5. And it's like, okay, next year we want to be number 3. And then after that, we got to, what? Let's be number 1. And then we hit that. And now the next closest. The next closest hotel in Chicago is like 20,000 followers behind us. So, we've got our, gas, pedal to the metal and not looking back. Again, I guess I'm fortunate because I can see daily what the value in social media is. It takes time. And I think a lot of people don't want to, they're looking for immediate results. And it took us, 4 or 5 years to be the most followed, but we'll have an influencer come in and work with us and they'll post on social media about our tea service. And the next day we'll have 50 new reservations, things like that.
On Instagram versus LinkedIn, your content is very much you putting that content out each day. On Instagram, do you have a social media team that's doing it? Are you in charge of that? How does that work?
I oversee all aspects of our marketing at the hotel. And then we have different companies we work with. So, they're doing the day-to-day and then I'm, looking at the overall strategy and yeah, let's do that. Maybe let's not do that. That doesn't align with our brand, things like that. Mm-hmm. And the best part is working there for 7 years and having the same partners that we do for 7 years. We're so like in sync that, we already know where we want to go with things and it makes it great.
Now, thinking about maybe the general manager that's listening to this right now, let's just say, hello, general managers that are out there listening. And let's just say you really want to maybe create a little bit more exposure for yourself on LinkedIn. Do you have any plan going into it? Do you plan out your social media for the month? Is there anything that you kind of go, okay, Monday is about a quote or Tuesday is a tip? Or do you have any process that you do to make it easy? Because it can feel very overwhelming. What should I post today?
I would recommend that you think about what is something that you can easily talk about. If somebody brought something up, like for me, LinkedIn, oh my God, you get me going on LinkedIn, I'll get on my soapbox forever. But
Yeah.
if there's something that comes easy to you, so maybe if you're a GM, maybe maybe you're an expert at talking about the P&L. There's a lot of people that's a shroud of mystery. What is the P&L? What does this mean? What does that mean? Get out there and, you don't have to do it every day. Do it 2 or 3 times a week and just break it down and say, hey, this is what this means. This is what your expenses are. These are the things that ownership looks for, and it will help your team understand, what you have to deal with. And, having been a business owner, I have a healthy respect for revenue. And now I can see why they ask the things they do. And it helps me anticipate, the questions they have in those month end calls and things like that. So if I were a GM, I would share those types of things, those behind the scenes things that might inspire someone to be the next GM and help your team understand the why behind certain things. Maybe you're cutting hours and everybody is like, oh, why are they screwing us? And then, you start to explain the concepts of, okay, this is why we have to do this. It would be helpful for people to learn that why.
Yes. Perfect example. I love it. Now, when you post on LinkedIn, in your mind, who is your audience?
I would say mostly hotel people.
Okay. Well, let me back this up really quickly. Because that you could take that in a couple of different ways. So let me just make sure I'm being clear. For me, my audience are hoteliers for sure. But as a general manager, though, my audience was people I was trying to attract to go, look what a great place this is to work. We'd love to have you on our team. Did you see where I'm going with this? Like I see a lot of general managers posting about, oh, stay at our hotel. I don't feel like that's the audience on LinkedIn unless you're connected to tons of clients.
Yeah. So like, for example, I have a ton of connections in the hotel industry. And then there's a lot of crossover with clients as well, different meeting planners and things.
Yeah.
But a lot of my content is focused towards how we can do better in hospitality. Like here, I try to give a lot of tips on either sales or marketing. Again, I just want to see hospitality win. I want to see people do well. I want to see them do right by their customers. And then by transference, I don't know if that's the right word I should be using, but I would think, meeting planners and clients see that as well, that I'm trying to help people be the best they can so they can service their clients the best they can, which in turn, maybe some of the consequences of that are, meeting planners want to work with us as well because our heads in the game and, we're trying to make everybody better and people appreciate that. So, and then, I put out marketing content, one to help people, do better and get their hotel on social media and things like that. And I just so happen to also have a social media management company and help people with creative marketing. And if somebody wants help with that, people reach out and ask for advice. And if that turns into them also being a client, great. That's not, it's not my number one goal, but if it leads to that, great. I just want to help.
You're an artist and creator for other people.
Yeah. So I've been an artist my whole life. It started when I was a kid in school drawing, and I've always had I hate to sound like I have an ego about it. I try to stay humble, but I'm good at art. So I've always been an artist. I ended up going to art college. So I went to art school, hence director of sales.
I have to ask you, what school did you go to?
I went to the American Academy of Art in downtown Chicago. Long story short, I had the opportunity. I was working at a hotel and I had the opportunity to be a sales manager or continue down the path of being a graphic designer. And I saw what both made, and
Yeah.
opportunities for jobs and things like that. And I had, bird in the hand, and there was nothing stopping me from continuing to do art. So I still do. I still,
Love it.
paint and draw and, whatever.
So you've done that. Then you also had your other entrepreneur experience with the limestone. And how long did you do that?
I did that for 7 years. I had reached a crossroads where I just wasn't sure what I wanted to do with hospitality. Part of it was at the time I had a boss that loved the guy, but he just seemed kind of miserable all the time. And, I think that rubbed off on me where I was like, that just doesn't look like a fun job whatsoever. So I was kind of at a crossroads of what do I want to do here with hospitality? And then the opportunity came up where my father-in-law and his partner were getting older and, wanted to retire and hand the business off to their respective sons. However, their respective sons were working in the production side of things. And my father-in-law worked more in the behind the scenes doing accounting, HR, sales, anything and everything behind the scenes. So it's not often you have the opportunity to join and to be part owner of something like that. So I'm kind of a high risk, high reward guy. So I was like, pew, pew, yeah, let's do it. So I did that for 7 years, and we actually took over a second limestone mill in Bloomington, Indiana, too. So we were kind of double fisting and running two businesses. And then eventually in 2013, we decided to sell it off and move on. And I thought, well, hospitality was always good to me. Maybe I'll get back into that. But I also had a taste for leadership because I had been part owner, and now I had a clear vision that I wanted to be a director of sales and marketing.
You don't work for your company or your brand. You really work for your boss. And to you, how your boss, their personality and the way they lead is the company. So people
Yeah.
who walk away from certain companies thinking that company is not great or it's unethical or whatever, but it's really the reflection of the leader. So what is the brand that you want to give each day? Remember that. And also the people you're hiring to represent your company, making sure that they're delivering that same ethic, that same personality, that same character, because that's what people walk away from of believing your brand is if the leader is that way.
At London House, it's the best culture I've ever worked for, and it showed me more than ever that leadership is incredibly important to set the tone and to establish that culture. So when we hire, we look for high performers and cultural ambassadors. So we look for people that come to work and we want you to bring your own mind, but we want to share the same heart, basically.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, yes, exactly. Yes, yes. And we want all the different individuals, but the same character, the same vision. Yes, exactly.
yeah,
But
and
again,
people, yeah, and people that, display, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? They give discretionary effort where they go above and beyond, not because of the money or their overtime or anything like that. It's because they care. And I think that's what sets good hotels apart from great hotels is you've got people that put in a little extra because they just flat out care. And it has nothing to do with anything else other than service.
yeah, 100%. They're leading from the heart. I love
Yes.
that. I love that. Now, looking ahead, what do you see as the biggest opportunities and challenge for our industry? And how are you preparing your team at the London House to thrive in the future? Because with AI, everything's changing, and who knows what's after that?
Yeah. I think we need to continue to evolve to attract new talent because the pandemic We had everybody in the industry had people that went on to do other things and didn't come back. There was a time where, if you're older like me, you remember that everybody used to just kind of shuffle around, oh, this person's at this hotel now. And then you'd fill your role with this person from this hotel. And it was just a lot of shuffling around. And the pandemic blew a lot of people just out of the game entirely. So I think we need to continue to educate people on what a great opportunities that hospitality is. I went to art school. So that is nothing. I mean, I definitely use those skills, especially in the marketing side of things. And I get to be creative and use that right side of my brain. But there's so many opportunities. We have accounting, you have front desk, which is customer service. You have engineering, who's fixing things, sales. So there's just so many different options. The kitchen, if you're a cook, things like that. There's just so many different avenues and ways you can go. And we have several examples at our hotel of people that, started in one role and moved up and moved up and moved up. We have someone who was originally a reservation agent, was then a group coordinator, and is now our assistant controller. Like, she's had that path. And it's awesome.
Yes, I started as a van driver / laundry girl in high school at the age of 17. That's what I always talk about. Is my favorite thing about our industry is that we welcome everyone. Yep. And your point about creating the future and bringing people into our industry, I really feel that we should be starting programs in junior high, if not sooner, to start educating people about this amazing opportunity. We're all, like you said, all these different disciplines fall under this industry, and where people can find paths in a hospitality. And especially when you get to high school and you might not be that person that's going to college, we're ready for you. We're welcoming you, and you can find a really enriching career in our industry. So yeah, I speak about that a lot. So I'm with you on that. Yeah. Well, I can talk to you all day. I've got so many more questions, but I know we only have so much time. So a couple things. One, I always have a fun question for my guest. My fun question for you, I've got a doozy for you. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
My fun question for you is, if you were in a room with everybody you've ever known, who's the first person you would look for?
Everybody I've ever known?
Yeah.
My wife.
I love that.
That. Yeah, my wife. She's my best friend.
All right. Now, I ask a question from each guest to give me a question to ask my next guest. Oh, and cool. My last guest, I didn't know if I'm going to keep this secret or not, but I'm just going to tell you. My last guest was Chris Green. And his question for you, if you can go back and redo one thing, what would you redo? What would you do over?
I don't know that it would be a very specific thing, but it would be how I acted at a certain time in my career, which was there was a time in my career where I felt like I had to do everything myself. I would want to take on everything myself. Either I wouldn't want to burden other people, or it was a matter of ego and wanting to prove myself, or thinking I can do it better. And you can definitely lead to burnout with that kind of thing. So if I could go back and give myself advice and say, hey, I would say knock that off. I said, there is no shame in asking for help. In fact, you will get so much further ahead faster if you ask for help. It's an opportunity to learn from somebody else, to strengthen relationships, because you bond with people better, when you help people out. So that would be what I would do different. Is I would have discovered that sooner in my career.
Yes. Well, I could definitely attest to that too. That would be something I still work on it, delegating and all of that, but 100% that would be something I would hope that I discovered sooner. That's really good. Now, what question do you have for our next guest?
Oh, sure. You know what I'm always looking for? is a great book recommendation. So my question would be, what would be your best book recommendation you'd give right now?
Do you have one that you want to share with us?
Oh, sure. Right out of the gate. It's a book called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. Right? You've read it? Yeah,
Oh,
it's phenomenal.
yes. Yes.
It's so good.
It might be the best hospitality book ever written. And I wrote
It
a
is.
hospitality book.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. It's so inspiring. It's unreal. It'll change your perspective on hospitality, and oh, it's so good.
Well, Don, you are a delight. I am so grateful that Shelley put us in the path of knowing. I love your content. I love being connected. And next time we're going to do some person downtown.
Awesome. That would be great. Yes.
Okay.
Right from the rooftop.
Yes. Oh, I love that idea. Yes. And you
Yeah.
can show me all the historical things about the London House.
Yeah. Awesome.
I love that.
Cool. And thank
Fantastic.
you so much. I really appreciate you inviting me on. I'm very honored and humbled. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, and one other thing, where can people connect with you?
LinkedIn.
Okay. Is that the best place, LinkedIn, for you?
Oh, totally. I live and
Okay.
breathe LinkedIn. Yeah, you were saying before, if you had to pick one place, LinkedIn is where I'm all in.
Yes. Yes. Perfect. Well, I'll put your link in the show notes as well, so people can just click and just get connected with you. Don,
Awesome. Love
you
it.
are awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's a wrap for today's show. Say yes to taking action and changing the world one yes at a time. And oh, my friend, will you say yes to review, like, and subscribe? The more yeses you give, the more juicy goodness I can bring to all of you wise pineapples. Cool or cool?